let's see, Pallet, are you ready to begin this endeavor? Yes, I heard a yes.
Did.
There you go. Okay, let's see if this works. So, oh, there
That
you
does.
are. Perfect.
Yay!
Perfect. Is it a deja vu? Oh, there you are again. So,
Palletception.
I trust your stream went well this morning.
Yes. Yes, it did.
So, would you
Yep,
like
we had a good
to
time.
introduce yourself for anybody who doesn't know you?
Sure. So I'm PalletBox. Well, I guess I call myself Pallet.
Palette.
This is the PalletBox. So
Yes.
it's a small room in my basement that kind of at some point was inspired to turn from just a dirty little like um add-on space in the basement that was like under a porch that was built on. So it's very dusty. Just there's like stone walls and behind what is now the wood walls. There's stone from the foundation of the house. Cement block walls were in behind these other walls. So it was very dark and dingy and just kind of a mess. And so I don't know, a year or two after I kind of started on it, it started getting better.
So
So yeah.
you made this box all by yourself, and what was the purpose of it when you made it? Did you make it because you decided I want to start streaming and I want to stream in my box, or was it for some other purpose?
Well, so at first I think if I remember correctly, I did have a bit of a sense of like wanting to do something with you know, I don't know, like some sort of content creation. Like I wasn't sure, like YouTube, gaming, streaming. Like I'd heard, and I wasn't like super at that point. A couple years before I started streaming, this is about 6, 7 years ago. I wasn't really into Twitch. Like I didn't know a lot about Twitch. I was really into gaming. Had been into gaming all my life. So it was more like, man, I'd like to maybe do something, and it was like, well, where could I do it? But either way, I needed a space to kind of. My original inspiration was I would love to have a cabin in the woods, a getaway, right? A space to just think, drink some coffee, relax, right? So that's really where it started. But the content creation thing was certainly on my mind when I began the process. So
And the cabin is not in the woods, but it's certainly a cabin. Or
that's very true.
do you live in the woods? Do you live like
No,
in an isolate? No.
no, I live in a neighborhood, like a suburb is what you would consider it.
And
So
you are in oh my goodness, is it Pennsylvania? Correct?
yes,
Okay.
that's correct. Yep. Yep.
And
Yeah, it's a
so
suburb of a
mhm.
city, and it's even though this city is very small in a sense, like the city center with the like skyscrapers and stuff, that section is a very small section. It's due to the really, really extreme hills. The hills are really steep and everything is really abrupt. So a lot of the neighborhoods and the suburbs got sort of built on the hills.
Hmm.
If you're obviously from Italy, you kind of know what it means to be built on hills. So it was that kind of thing where it was just the terrain was kind of wild, and so all these little neighborhoods got sort of built all over the place. So there's still sections with lots of woods and trees, and there's plenty of trees around, but it's still very much of a suburb of a large city. So
Hmm. And so now the main thing that you do as an artist, as the palette box, is streaming, correct? But you
that's
also
correct.
do a lot of crafting.
Yes, yes. It's
And
kind of like, yeah, I stream, and it's definitely the main thing that I do. But just as a person, I mean, I do a lot of things on different things on stream, but for sure, my just me as a person, I whether it's woodworking or fixing something or even just regular art like drawing or painting or I do a variety of things. So
Christopher says, great stream tonight and into the morning, sir." Yes,
Yes.
and he's a talented musician. Yes. So, what about your music? Because I know you write your own songs and you sing country music. And did you do that a lot in the past? When did you start doing this, and why? And tell us a little bit about it.
Well, it really started. My dad actually was a minister, so I grew up singing in church, obviously
Oh.
for congregational singing, and but really where my singing started was as a young child. We had, and then I'm not sure what you're familiar with, but we had something in the United States they called Sunday school, which is really just sort of a kind of a an early morning thing where usually you try to get a bunch of kids from the neighborhood, and you'd tell them Bible stories and sing these
Mm-hmm.
little what we call children choruses. They're very simple, very geared to children. So of course I would have started that as before I even remember, but I did it a lot, and being the minister's child, then you were supposed to be the one that was like you did everything, right? And you were like the leader, or at least the example. So it's
Oh,
like, you had to like, you had to
pressure.
know all the songs, and so that was really what started. But then my parents got us going in, like in the afternoons we would go to what we would call nursing homes, or elderly care homes, and we would put on little services. We would sing some songs. I would sing some of these children's choruses. But I remember even back then as a kid, for some odd reason, these old ladies just loved it, like loved it, and some of them would like give me $1 or two for
Oh,
singing. It was very, very sweet, right? But it was like every week, I would go around either to an individual room, or we would have it in sort of their like dining room. But that's kind of where it started. But then singing in congregational certainly got me, using my voice. But you sing 3 times a week, 3 services a week, you go to, and so you're singing all the time. It felt like music was just a part of it. But uh, probably I think it was around 13, is we had this traveling minister come to my dad's church to do like a series of services, and he played guitar and mandolin and all these different instruments, and he was teaching my brother, and I was like, well, I want to learn. He's like, all right, well, I'll teach you bass and I'll teach your brother guitar. But
oh.
that night, yeah, he gave us both like lessons that day, but that night I asked my brother, I was like, well, what did he teach you? And he's like, oh, he showed me these chords. I'm like, okay, let me try. So I tried those chords, and by the next morning, I knew the chords better than my brother.
Because
And
yeah.
then he's like, okay. He's like, well, if you really want to learn guitar, he handed me a sheet of chords, showed me where the fingering positions were. And he said, you learn those and use something called a capo, which is this, which allows you to kind of move up and down the neck of the guitar to change the key. He's like, you use this and you learn these chords, and you can pretty much play anything that's written. I was like, okay. And as a 13-year-old, I did. I started learning, and I just kind of took off from there. And then I would have played kind of in the instrumental section at sometimes in church, and then eventually would have started singing, like special songs in the church services, and that's really where all of my music got started.
Okay. And so when you started writing your own songs, were they related to church? Were they related to church and religion, or were they just something separate? Or was there an
Yep.
influence there? Or
So yeah, actually the very first songs I wrote several songs at about I think it was about 16 years old. But they were all church related at that time. I was a pretty I say I was a pretty like hardcore religious kid at points. I want to say I was very sensitive, so I tried real hard, but it was about 16, 17, even up until maybe 18 I might have wrote a song or two. But my mom actually, she really liked them, and she actually got the church we were attending at the time. She got the minister to help me record those, and she put it at that point. It would have been on either a cassette tape and a CD. So that was my first experience with like recording anything, writing songs. Um, but that was, man, I did that for kind of a little while, and then I would have used those songs on occasion. I would have sang those as specials in church services,
Hmm.
even after college, due to kind of the nature of what I went to college for. So,
And have you ever
but yeah,
like tried to publish, or did you like make an album? Did you want to do that, or did you just mostly write just songs for yourself and just to play live? Or
yeah, I think at the beginning it was once again these were religious, songs and my faith is still important to me, but at that time it was like kind of what my job was. I went to school actually to be a minister. So what happened was is I ended up using those songs, in my own, when you say ministry or whatever you want to you call it, and in different churches where I'd minister. And so I sang those songs for probably several years. I did, like, I had that CD, but I don't think I ever had enough confidence to say, "Ew, let's try to actually make this." And I don't think I ever had the money either. I mean, it
hmm,
was at that point at least you
it
couldn't
was,
self-publish as well.
yeah, it was a different time. Like now,
Yes.
it's a lot easier to just make your own album. Maybe it won't have the best quality of sound wise,
Yep.
but yeah, at the time it wasn't an option. So
That's right.
yeah. Um, so hold on, let me look at my questions.
Okay. Well, I can also fill this in. Like
Yeah.
the music that I sing now is not really related in a sense to religion. Like my faith is it's very important to me. It's all, but these songs are certainly not religiously oriented, if you will. But that didn't start until kind of right before I started streaming. I don't know, I'm going to say a few months or maybe within a year is I kind of had a little bit of a shift in my mind. I was like, man, I would like to write some songs that it was more about the art of it and things like it was very cathartic to me to try to put how I was feeling into words. So it
Mm.
was a bit of a shift. And so this sort of the last 4 or 5 years has been a pretty strong I should say a very strong personal journey for me. So it's been a lot different, instead of just doing what I felt like, a little more compelled to do. This was much more personal, I guess. So
Yeah, and we have a question for you. Do you draw inspiration from your own life when writing songs? And are there any particular themes or messages you try to convey through your music?
yeah, that's a really good question. So yes, all of these songs pretty much that I've written in the last 4 or 5 years that I normally sing on stream and do concerts and stuff with them. These are all songs from more personal experiences. Whether it's in the past like heartbreak or something strongly that I've been feeling emotionally. Things that came from maybe relationships or past relationships, current or past relationships, um, and just kind of a mixture of. It was a way for me to sort of get stuff out of my head onto paper. If that makes sense.
Hmm.
But yes, it's very much of a personal. Um, I don't know, almost a bit of a diary. Some of it's more like an idea, and it's maybe not exactly what happened to me, but it made me feel like that, right? So it allows me to sort of communicate that, that a theme or an idea. But most of it, some of it's like like I said, heartbreak or missing someone or those kinds of strong feelings. Other of it's the tentativeness that I felt before I started streaming. Like I'm not sure what to do. I don't know if this is a good idea. There was a lot of risk kind of involved because we had to, it kind of shook up our schedule and our lives a little bit. So there was some tentativeness that I put into some songs. So yes.
Would you like to play us a song now?
Sure. Sure.
Maybe you can pick one that you really like the message or your favorite song, or just pick
Yes.
one that you'd like to play for us.
Okay. Sounds good. So I'll start off with one. It was actually kind of the first one that I really wrote that sort of started this whole journey. Let me try to grab it here. But it was kind of at a point where I was trying to like I don't know how to describe it, but it was basically where I was interacting with some people, and it sort of bridged the gap, I guess, from sort of some of my previous experiences. And it was a time where I was trying to, I don't know, figure some stuff out in my head. And what I realized was is that I wanted to help people, not because it was my job, but because it was just who I was, if that makes any sense. Because I felt like at certain times, of course, being a minister, it feels like it's your job. You know what I mean? So it was a very helpful kind of song to to write because it gave me some sense of, I don't want to say, not closure, because I'm not a minister, anymore. So it
Mm-hmm.
was like a sense of a transition, I guess, a change of philosophy almost.
Wow, I'm curious to hear it. Okay, I shall
All right,
silence myself.
that
I
have
think it's fixed now.
well, I hope so because you would think that like it would turn off any kind of potential noise suppression if you did it that way. Well, that just means I got to sing another song. No, I will sing what you need me to sing. I've got other songs, so it's no worries.
You can
No
sing
worries.
us the chorus of the song you just sang now. See if we hear it
I
well.
I could do that, or I could sing another one. It's up to you. Or well, yeah, let's test it.
Let's test this.
Okay, here we go. Yeah, 'cause back there on that highway when you were going my way, well, I never really ever could get enough. But now down on the causeway of my heart, it all just gave way. And well, boy, I gotta tell you, it's been rough. Yeah, it's been rough. Any better?
Yes. It's fixed. Now we can start the podcast.
Yay! Yay!
Let's just
So
restart
sorry, guys.
everything.
Yeah, back to zero.
We have a question from Doug. He asks, do
Okay.
you commonly sing on stream or is this a special event?
So I at one point I sang by point request. People have, used channel points. But what happened was I sort of like sometimes my voice wasn't up to it and I hated like turning it off and on. And then there was an occasion or two where somebody would just be like, like just sing. I want you to sing. I don't care what you're doing, just sing. There could be a few people that troll with it, in other words. So it was like it was a little hard for me to like know how to balance that all out, especially if my voice wasn't up to it. So what I've decided to do is I've tried to like I'll sing on an occasion, but then I'll schedule concert days. So then I'll sing my whole repertoire, and then people can catch the VOD and, hear basically just about every song I've written. So that's how I do. If somebody really wants to hear a song and they come into my chat and I'm like, hey, I would really love to hear you sing. I haven't heard you sing in a while, or whatever. Say something like that. I'm not opposed to being like, all right, give me a couple minutes. I'll finish whatever this I'm doing and I'll sing a song or two. So that's how I usually do it.
Daniel wants to know if there is a schedule for these concert days.
The only thing that I can tell you is you just follow Twitter and of course then in my Discord and I will announce them. So it's been roughly like once a month. I did have
Right?
the community put in like like do a channel point sort of thing where if they got the community goal, then we would do it. But I think I'm moving forward. It's going to be more like a once a month or maybe once every couple week kind of thing. So, but I will announce it on Twitter and in my Discord announcements when I do it.
That's a lot, once every couple of weeks. That's like a lot of singing.
Yeah, and I might do more like a smaller concert, You know what I mean? Like
Oh,
just a couple 3 hours. I might do something like
well,
that. But the last one was, well, they're all usually about at least 3 hours. No matter what I try to do, it ends up being a little longer. So
how do you keep your voice, alive for streaming 8 hours a day and then singing 2 or 3 hours? Do you have tricks? I saw you actually drink coffee just before the concert in the last concert because I watched the video and I was like, that's
it's
not what
not a good idea.
most singers do.
Yeah, whiskey, somebody said. No, it's no, actually, yeah, the coffee's probably not the best thing. But I drink coffee every stream anyways, so it's kind of hard for me to break that habit. But you know, not singing all the time has been the best for
Hmm.
me. Like that's when I had the singing, like the song request turned on, and I was singing like at least 3 or 4 songs a night. That got a little rough. But then at that point too, I was streaming probably 10 hours a day, and right now I'm probably more at like 8 hours a day, average 8 to 9 hours a day. So not singing all the time and just pacing myself is the best. But if things really get rough, yeah, I'll use like a little lemon honey, maybe some tea with honey. Peanut butter is pretty good for your voice,
I
surprisingly
didn't know
enough.
that.
Yeah, I don't know, it's whether it's what it does to your throat, but it definitely does help.
It
So yeah,
butters
there's
it.
yeah,
And
something like
another question is, do you have a band that you play with or is it solo?
no, it's just solo. Yeah, I would like to play with the band sometime. I just obviously when I started playing, I was playing for kind of a couple years, and then of course COVID, and so that sort of I was going to like a little like songwriter circle. That's actually what kind of encouraged me to write a couple of my
Oh,
songs. But I was going to that. We would kind of perform for each other, played a couple open mics, that kind of thing. But that kind of shut everything down. So I've just not really gotten back out much, and it's hard for me with my schedule to do so, anyways. So yeah, just solo for now.
and so I was wondering because now you consider streaming your main thing as opposed to
Yeah.
writing song, and you integrated your singing into your stream, but the thing you care about the most is streaming, and this is also what like that emotional relief that you talked about before. That's what got you started writing and songs, and then transformed your songs also into something else, and now this you get more out of you get that like relief and opening up, you get that on with streaming. So do you still write a lot of songs right now? Do you find yourself wanting and needing to write songs, uh, or is that
Yeah,
on hold? Maybe you'd like it right now, you are in a different place, or how is it?
yeah, songs are weird. So I've never sat down and said, okay, I'm gonna write songs now. In the sense of trying to write 3 songs, like a writer would sit down and say, like yourself, I'm gonna write a book. I don't do it that way. It's more inspirational. So what will happen is, um, like I said, that first song I sang to you came kind of from a point where I was kind of meeting with some other people, and I realized, like, as I interacted with them, it was frustrating how these individuals, they 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 had some good, I'm going to say, beliefs, but they they weren't always like practical in the way they applied them, right? So they believed in helping people, but they didn't. It was like pulling teeth to see them help people, if that makes sense. So it was like this
Oh.
frustration, and that's what like caused me to sing like we should reach out, like not just build, you know, sandcastles in a sense,
Hmm.
building these things in our lives that really don't mean anything, that will all go away at one point. But the people are the long-term investment. And
Yeah.
and so that kind of thing has happened, and I've basically never have gone probably more than 3 or 4 months without writing a song. It's been probably on an average, I guess, in four, what's it been, five, probably roughly 5 years, I've written, I don't know, 30 songs. So whatever that comes out to be.
Well, that's still a
Um,
lot, yes. So writing songs is still like a part of
yeah,
your
it's
life.
ongoing.
It's yeah.
Yes, it's like a part of who I am. I just I'll run into something, whether it's mentally an old memory, maybe something that I'm working through, because as a person, I'm a big believer in always, like developing deeper, trying to find more, greater healing, greater peace with yourself. Obviously, I still have, you know, a deep faith. And so those things kind of affect me, but I'm always trying to like progress, right? Do better, become, a better version of myself, that kind of thing. So in that progress and process, yeah, there's usually stuff, either snags, where it's like, oh crap, like, oh, this is tough to get over, and the song will
Yeah.
sort of encapsulate that struggle, or it's a lesson I've learned. So yeah, it's all a part of the process and just ongoing.
So you don't believe that's the same for every artist? I mean, at first, at some point, I believe that's the same for every artist. Like you want to kind of like, well, writing, even drawing, just in
Right.
all kind of creative art. I used to think, it all comes from a place where you are kind of exploring yourself. You're like
Yep.
trying to reach something, to improve or discover something. And I thought that were the case, but I hear maybe it's not actually the same for every content creator. It's not always where it comes from, the need to make something new.
Yeah, and I think what happens, for sure, like it's not really an original idea, of course, but um, there's an artist by the name of NF, and he's a rapper, and he's always sort of been, out like on the fringe of the industry, the rap industry. Like he's very clean. He doesn't cuss a lot or at all. Um, there's like he's sort of like anti-establishment rap, if that makes sense, against
Okay.
the rap establishment. Anyway, he just came up with a song not too long ago where he talks about that, how there are some of these rappers who just for the fact that they know that if they do a certain thing, it'll make a lot of money, right? Then they then they wonder when they take that route and they just do it for the money, they wonder why then their music lacks creativity, right? Why they lose some of that passion, why they're not, when they're not feeling the art. It's because it's sort of been boiled down to it, just the form, right? Not the heart behind it. It can
Hmm.
happen to me too, like when I'm performing, right? You sing a song, you sing it like 100 times. At some point, you can sort of lose that original fire that you had when you came up with it, right? Because maybe you've worked through that point in your life. So that can happen to any artist, even the most passionate. But I think when you start off as sort of a soulless place, or you're just doing it to either A, please somebody else, or B, just for the money, or just because it's quote your job or whatever, that can just suck you of all your life pretty quick, and your impetus for even doing it in the first place. So that's like, I think every artist should create. Like, I think that's a good thing. You should create because it's coming from inside
Yeah.
of you, because you want to, and because you're inspired to, or whatever. And it's good to practice or discipline yourself at times when you don't feel like it, even if you feel motivated. You're not always going to want to write that day or whatever, but at the same time, if you lose the soul of it, I mean, how can you create good art if it's empty? I don't know.
Indeed.
It's
Yeah.
tough.
And sometimes overdoing it, that's just what it is. But also
Yes.
your initial goal. Yeah, as you're saying. Like says, I
Yeah.
really like the sandcastle idea, metaphor.
Yeah, it's easy to it's easy, and these guys were more well to do, so it was kind of easy to kind of poke at that sort of building castles out of sand, because they were building these big things and doing these big things that probably weren't going to be there, when they're gone. But I think any of us can kind of do the same thing. We can put time into stuff that doesn't have as much long term. I can, like, for instance, I could sacrifice sort of time with my kids or my family for the sake of something that I just want to do, right? Like, I have to keep that in balance. So I think it's important for all of us to keep that
Mhm.
concept in our minds. I'm
And
trying to figure.
you stream mostly at nighttime, correct? Now? So,
Yeah.
do you have your day with your family and then night comes and you just go on and have your private, well, private, not really because you share it with a lot of people, but like your
Right.
evening time and streaming? And tell us a little bit, like, I don't know if you want an inside of behind the scene of,
Yep.
you.
Yeah. So my schedule, it started kind of from a weird spot. What happened was I had worked, I was a minister for a while, and then when we had kind of moved back to this area, I had tried to find work that I had done previously. I worked as a bicycle mechanic, so I'd spent, oh my, probably 3 4 years sort of bounce around different jobs trying to find something that would support the family. But unfortunately, the industry that I had trained in for the last like previously 5 or 6 years, there just wasn't any work in the area that could really provide it effectively for the family. So I was trying anything and everything. It was a pretty desperate position. So once I kind of got to a point where I'm like, all right, I'm done. I'm gonna try this. I had got the PalletBox sort of like the walls up and kind of my computer set up. It was very bare, very plain. If you ever want to see pictures, I do have a YouTube video of like the whole journey.
Oh, yes, we do have that.
So yeah, so the it's like a stream anniversary or my 4 year stream anniversary, and I went through the whole like pictures and everything. But when I like started, I was like, I took it from a point of, well, I don't know. I don't know how to build this thing. I don't know what I'm doing, but I do know that most people stream up until the evening and then they would get off, right? So they're gonna raid off to somebody. So why don't I put myself in a position to be that guy that they raid off to, right? Or at least the chance to, right? And then I as well was all my life have been a night owl. Like I could stay up really late into the night and it didn't really bother me. As a matter of fact, that's what I preferred. Trying to get up early every morning was always my bane. So I I was very, very like just say, you know what, I'm just gonna stay up late. And then it like I don't know what happened. It sort of just turned into an all night thing. I don't even know. But the thing is also the kids, they're noisy and they're above me. So at nighttime it's quiet, right? And I'm downstairs, so I can kind of like I don't really bother them unless I got really super loud, but I don't really bother them because it's a couple floors between me and them. But in the daytime, if they're running around, it's just boom boom, and it's harder to concentrate. So it was like a kind of a two-part sort of thing.
And so, what would you say is so this is how you got started, how you got into it, and
Yes.
how? Let's see if I can phrase this. Well, I don't know. What did you find there when you started? Like, were you happy with like what you got out of, like, I don't know, this changed your whole life, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah, 100%.
did you get to a position where you found your juice, your
Yeah.
place, your
No,
like?
it's 100%. No, I totally know what you mean by that. I so it it was very like the 3 or 4 years leading up to that was like just crazy, like desperate, like one job to another, trying to find something that worked, right?
Mhm.
And I did a lot of things and I'm not sorry that I did them. Like it was a lot of great experiences and I worked several different jobs. I delivered food by bicycle in the city, which is something I always wanted to do. I wasn't really a bike messenger, but I was a delivery person and I got I had some crazy experiences, right? There was a lot of crazy stuff that happened. It was very volatile, right? I didn't,
Mm.
it wasn't I was barely making enough to survive. It was like really super stressful. So it was also a point of trying to find who I was, found, who I was, because like I said, I've been a minister, but I didn't like the way I felt paid to do something that I wanted to do from the heart, if that makes sense. Like I wanted to help people, and even, consider my faith, I wanted to do, for others, but without that sense of duty just because I get paid to do this. So
Hmm.
that's why one of the reasons I had switched and said, okay, now I'll just work a job, be just like this normal person, and not feel like I'm in that other class, right? I didn't want to be in some sort of, other class of person. I just want to be a normal person and just help because that was me. So that it, but it's, a lot easier said than done. A
So
lot of time put into trying to figure out what that looked like.
yeah, it's very interesting because actually you did like the job of minister. You did like that, but
Right.
because it was your job, then you no longer could like do it well. You no longer felt like you were doing the right thing. That's very
Correct.
interesting.
It's a very maybe odd, it's very hard to describe to someone, but yeah, I just felt like with the culture, maybe 50, 100 years ago within the culture, it maybe wouldn't have felt so bad, but there's been a lot of bad things that have happened, so it's not something that maybe I get into a lot, but I just felt like psychologically, a lot of people when they meet a minister or whatever, it doesn't have a positive, effect when you learn somebody's a minister. It's more, sometimes it can be
Oh,
like a negative, right? So
yeah.
it was hard. Like I felt like people put more walls up,
Okay.
and didn't want me to be close because they weren't sure if I was one of those crazy people, right? Or if I
Hmm.
was like, like, somebody who might hurt them or whatever, but due to some of the bad press over the years of ministers, unfortunately. So it was a thing that I felt like it was a conglomeration of things that sort of moved me with that direction. And but I was, I came to the conclusion that I felt like I could do much better to just help than in a different position within the culture than what I was, if that makes sense.
Yeah, wow, this is very cool. But you could have just gone up to them and say, "Look, yes, I'm a minister, but I just sing country music. Listen." And then they would have
Right.
calmed down and be like, "Okay, okay,
Yeah,
you're
right,
not
right.
crazy. You can talk to me." No, but I understand because in some cases it's also maybe the fear of religion. You don't necessarily want to help
Yes.
somebody. Just you're a minister, but maybe you're not there in the shoes of a representative of a certain religion, but you're there to help.
Correct.
But because you represent that religion, then maybe
Yep.
some people are cautious or they don't want to they don't want you to get close to them. I never thought about it that way.
Yep.
Italy is a very religious country, so
Sure.
this is, yeah, it's like normal. You can be a priest. We don't have, I don't think we use the word minister. We
Yeah.
use
Right.
this,
Right.
yeah, you're just a priest. At least what we say, that's what we say in Italian. And it's just
Yep.
normal, you're a priest. Yeah, well, whatever. Like, I know like a few others, so it's just normal. You're just a person, you don't have
100%.
this but yeah.
There's kind of like there probably isn't as much of a negative connotation that goes along with it because it's just part of the culture. And I think probably, once again, 50 maybe 100 years ago in the United States, it was much more, felt much more normal. And as a matter of fact, if you were a minister, you tended to be like allowed to access people better, like in hospitals or prisons. People look to you for help, but because of, a lot of bad press and some bad examples, some bad apples, if you will, it
Yeah.
went from being a great positive thing in the culture to being a big negative. And unfortunately, you can't you can't fight sometimes those connotations. Like you spend more time trying to fight the misconception than you do to just step away from it and just come at it from a different angle. So,
Hmm. Doug says, doing sound, I've worked with a lot of churches. I've seen some that
yep,
have lost the plot.
yep.
Some get so big they seem to forget that they aren't God themselves.
Yes,
There are
yeah,
good ones too. Yeah,
yes,
of
there are.
course, like in everything, there is
Yep.
good and bad. I don't know because here there is a difference in there is a difference in culture here. So I am
Sure.
Italian living in Europe. I know, my world.
Sure.
So in terms of religion, I can talk about the Italian world. And so
Yeah.
America is very different. So like in Italy, you have one main church. Of course, you have Vatican there, and
Yep.
mainly we have Catholicism,
Yep.
Christian Catholic, and this is basically the only religion that I can say I know. I
Yep.
know what it is, how it's structured, how it works. But in America, I think you have a lot of different churches and a lot of different,
Yes.
even within the same religion,
Yep.
under the same name, you still have a lot of very different churches, very different way of.
Yep.
I can't imagine how that is like for an average person who is looking, let's say one who knows a little about religion but maybe is in that place where they don't know if they don't think they're in the right place for their faith, and they're looking for the right faith, let's say, which is something that happens a lot
Yes.
within religious people. How do
Yep.
they even go about finding and learning the right, what they like, finding what they're looking for, because there must be so much
Yep.
out there.
There's literally hundreds, probably even thousands. So, of churches slash denominations and groups. It's confusing.
Yeah, I
To
can't
put it
even
that
begin
way.
to imagine that world. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so vast. But
Yeah.
I actually didn't know this about you. I didn't know you had been a minister. So
Yeah. And I don't, so, obviously, once again, since those connotations are generally negative, I don't usually talk about it, but I, just
it's
because I don't need to, there's no reason to, but in this case, it is who I am. It's where I came from. It's my history.
yeah, but
I
it's
can,
it's very good discovery. Like it's. I think that we're not here trying to make anybody think something specific. We're
no,
here
of
to
course
learn
not.
and share, and
Yeah.
so it's this stuff is actually really interesting.
Yep.
Yes.
Good.
But why don't we go back to the pallet box and what you do as pallet box when you're
Yeah.
streaming? Like, what are the best things about it, and what are the not so great things about it? If you want to share any of that stuff that you want to share.
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, it's been a big it's something I still learn, but it's been a big learning process. Like what should I do? Streaming is such an odd thing, really, when you think about it. It's kind of like having a camera in somebody's living room and they're just playing video
And
games.
then you're just talking, and to anybody
Right,
looking at
right.
you in that
Yep.
room, they would be like, who's he talking to?
Exactly. So it is by nature a fairly odd thing, but it's become a thing. So it is what it is, right? It's this thing we do. Um, so for me, it was, and I love philosophizing, and I love kind of learning the why and the what, and dig into stuff. But at the end of the day, what I realized was when I was younger, I was I don't know. Well, within the religion that I grew up in, we were we were fairly distant, I guess, from sometimes the culture. So I felt kind of lonely. I wish I had some more people to connect to, but I was a very much a people person. So it could have happened from any, in anyone's life where you want to connect and you don't have very many people at that time because we moved around some. So at any rate, I would just wish I, had those people to connect to that I had things in common with, right? So as I've streamed, I realized, a big positive that I do is it's something that I'm sitting here doing something I love to do, right? Talking about things that I enjoy, whether it's tech, whether it's, art, whether it's crafting, music. And look, I get to, talk about those things with people that also enjoy talking about them. So it's a way for me to connect with people in a very casual way and provide them with something I always wanted, was that I'm going to say, like, a little bit of companionship, if you will, right? A little bit of interaction. Maybe they're stuck in an apartment building, and I have at least two or three people I can think of that with disabilities who can't get out very much, right? So now I get to, give them some interaction and be able to chat with them and feel like, they've got somebody they can connect with. And I think that's huge. Like I think that's really important in our culture where people are fearful to kind of reach out. They're not sure who's going to hurt them or what's going to happen, and maybe people have experienced some dark things in their life and it's hard for them. They feel scared to interact socially. It's just a great, I think it's a great opportunity to provide those people some human interaction. So the entertainment, it's definitely there. Like I want it to be entertaining, but I think the human connection is probably as much or more important
This
than the
is
entertainment stuff.
yeah, this is really, it's kind of touching. It's really nice to hear, because indeed in this time and day, and especially even before COVID, but when the
Yeah.
COVID happened, and then so many people got cut off from the rest of the world, especially
Yep.
people who lived alone, who didn't have a family. Not saying that it wasn't as difficult for people with a family, because a lot of families were not used to living together for
Yeah.
so long without being allowed to go out. So
Yep.
but yes, in any case, for a lot of people, that I think that social interaction online has become more important. And I'm not talking
Yeah.
about forums, because that's a bit like, when you're just writing and writing, and
Yeah.
there's just like a writing conversation. It's not the same thing. But when you can see somebody talk, and then you can connect in other ways as well at times, so you can then connect through Discord, you can play together, you can,
Yep.
yeah, create some connections there. And I think nowadays that is that it shouldn't be overlooked as a type of social interaction, because as Doug
Yep.
says, interacting with streamers has become my main source of social outlet. And
Yep.
I myself can also say, right now I live in a country where I don't speak the language. It's my own fault, because I haven't
Mm.
learned it yet. But
Still.
I can still get by with English. But it's not as easy to find friends like in real life right now, that I can, just easily chat, because most people, then if you speak English, they're not that ready to connect with you. And
Right.
actually
Right.
streaming is it is a big social thing for me as well. So yeah,
Yep.
I understand that. Yep.
And I think there's a sense, obviously, um when you have a variety, like I'm at the core as much of a variety streamer as I think you can be a variety streamer. It really does, like, it's important to me when I have things that I really enjoy. I don't know, I find it important. So I know it's important to other, it has to be important to other people. It's someone else at least. But I find it important to kind of compare notes, like be able to talk about those items or that hobby with other people and sort of, not only figure out if you're doing things right or, kind of troubleshoot, but also just simply that passion of being, like, for instance, you're a writer, so it's like to be able to tell other writers about, well, I was doing this and I wrote this and then this went, and like just that excitement you have. Oh, I really got this chapter done, well, like it really came together. Like those kinds of things are really cool. So I love to tell my community about the cool things that I'm doing. Like, on my Instagram, I've got a picture of several of the glass bottled sodas. Like in the United States, there's a lot of soda. Like everybody drinks soda, but it's like it's made with high fructose corn syrup. It's just not. It I don't know. It's just a really cheap drink that's not very good for you. And so there's a few of these companies that have come up with, I'm not gonna say they're healthy, but they're healthier. Like they're made with a real sugar, and they're brewed more like the old like soda fountains were. So I don't know. I just got this thing about bottled sodas, got all these different flavors, and I'm like super pumped. And so I put a picture up, and I was telling my community something really silly like that, but it gives me,
To
this
share.
outlet to be able to compare and share with, people about something that I love. And
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
big.
I actually realize how difficult it is for a person, like just your average internet user who is not a tech genius, or who doesn't know all the online places where you can go and find and connect with people. Because let's
Yep.
say I've never been somebody good at connecting with people. So if I go on Reddit and I
Yep.
say, okay, I know Reddit is a great place to meet people with the same interest as you, and then I go and I try to find people with the same interest as me. It's like sharks out there. It's like I cannot connect with somebody, not for real. Like, it's just like I can shout something out
Yes.
there or hear other people shout out their things, and it's actually really hard to find the right place for you. Even if you're looking for a place online where you
Yes.
can connect with people, it's actually not easy.
Yep.
Maybe if you are somebody who has been doing it for many years since you were a kid, okay. But for somebody who hasn't, like I started using online as a social thing when I started streaming. That was, I think, maybe about 4.5, maybe 5 years ago.
Okay.
And at the time, even still now, for me, it's very difficult to find the right places and to actually talk to people and get to know them through
Yes.
the internet when I haven't actually met them or seen them. And so you would think that, it's your way of doing is, trying to give the people a place to share, and you
Yes.
can share. It's, yeah. Hello, Gamsling. Hello, Angel. Agent Brigman. Thank you. Ugh. Welcoming, guys.
It's okay. It happens to be so often. I'm tripping over. I'm
Yes.
terrible with Twitch names,
We
so
trip.
I'm with you.
I'm trying to think. Let's see. Is there more you want to tell us that we haven't covered? Like any great thing we don't know that we missed?
Well, I think as far as like just kind of briefly, I'll just say this. So, um, if you're around, you'll find that yes, I stream games and I stream like all kinds of games. So it's just not one. I play music, yes. I do a little bit of art. The
Oh,
tabletop
yes.
game was the big thing that I think
Yes.
people found interesting. Now I don't have any current plans with it right now, so I know like it's a little bit on the back burner, but the idea is someday, hopefully, I'll be able to put together this thing better and so that it can become something that's a little bit more normal or at least consistent, I should say. But if you see these guys, so all these cards, these are all
Made by
playing
you,
cards, yes, that I've
right?
painted out of and they're characters that people typically on the channel have saved up channel points and then submitted as ideas, right? So these are all like acrylic painted. I was starting to do carvings and then I got too many. But this is the Palettier. So he's my channel mascot. So he's kind of like a musketeer, but he's the Palettier because of course it's the PalletBox, so he has to be a Palettier. But yeah, then this is like the card version of him, right? But it goes on and on and on. So I have all these cards. The community helped to kind of create the ideas of some of these guys, right? I mean, we have Raul. I mean, I got like 50 some. Some of them are on my Instagram. We've got like Dominus, he's like this very strong guy. Anyway, tons of cards, tons and tons and tons. But the idea was to at some point to create a game, a tabletop game that I could play with the community. And we got pretty far. I've got kind of behind me, I think you can kind of see it in this top right for you guys. This map. So that's the map of Palatonia. That's the area which the Palantir live.
Yeah.
But so I do have a story. Like if I was inclined, I could write a book. I don't
Let's
I,
go.
I don't feel motivated yet, but I do have a story in my mind that I've kind of cooked up, right? That has the Palantir and like I got some pretty cool lore. I think that is all part of it. But the tabletop game. Let me at least grab the box so you can see it, because a lot of people find this interesting. So we
What's
have,
in the box?
yes, that's right. So I created this box, I built it, and I wanted it to be like, a little bit like what Jumanji, I think is what it's called.
Oh, yes,
So
that's what
when
it
you
looks
open,
like.
yeah, you open the box, and I had like location cards. So this is like Tree Town, and at Tree Town you could go to the Tilted Squirrel, which is like a bar, in the like the tree house city. So I started making these locations, which are actual locations on the map. Um, and then I had like a whole thing where like I have a slate. Like I wanted it to be very tangible. So you have this slate where you keep track of your inventory and you
Wow.
write it with chalk, right? Let me see if I can do this without destroying everything. One second. So I used some D&D dice, and I, created a dice roller box with, I put some leather in here, and I used D&D dice for my game. But at one point I was playing it like once a week, or we'd actually play, and then I'd sort of let other like people in the chat sort of say what they were doing. Like I would compete with them with darts. I used the dartboard, and we would go into the bar and play darts, and then I would roll for their score, and then I would like try to throw and beat their score. So technically we were playing darts. So
That's
those
cool.
kinds of things. But yeah, trying to create a like an interactive type game. But it's like I said, it's hard because there's so much to kind of keep track of, like where your character is and his inventory and the system. I could definitely play it, but it is hard to kind of keep up with. So, but that is something that I plan eventually. I would like to take the cards and have something where I'd love to automate it, maybe make a video game someday, but at least have it where people could come in and then they could have a channel point redemption that would be
Yeah.
different activities that they could do, right? So their card, whether have it like pinned to the wall or something, and say this person does this, takes a trip, journeys to this place, or how like some of those bots have like boss fights that you can do, or you can
Yeah.
gamble or whatever. I would love it to be something like that. So this character does this or that and gets X amount of gold, and it would be almost like playing a little almost like an MMO in some ways, where each person in your community is literally a character in your little world, and then at some point you could sort of interact with those characters. That's my goal with it, but to know how to to integrate all that, it's a tough thing to do.
Yeah, that
But
sounds like you have a huge project ahead of you. I
yeah,
actually
exactly.
forgot that you were doing this because I remember back in the days when I first met you, that was years
Yes.
ago, I remember
Yep.
that you were doing this. You were doing this often on stream. Yes.
Yep.
But
And there are
so,
still some like highlights and stuff that you can see, from my videos where I was playing it. It's still there that you can check out, but
yeah,
it's been a while. It's been a long time ago.
we do have some tabletop enthusiasts here as well. So
Yeah,
this is the idea of making it like with the basically you would want to make it like an ongoing game that just
correct.
whenever people come they can keep on playing and just
Yep.
it keeps on going. That's a really really cool idea. So
Like at the least, I would love
definitely,
it to like I want the community to feel like they're a part of sort of this, like almost that the channel is its own world, if that makes sense. So when you come to
yeah.
the channel, it's not just about coming into the channel; it's about sort of entering this world of Palatonia, and then you're able to like by being there, you can kind of interact with that world, and someday, hopefully, I can like refine that and make it happen, but it's hard to do without me doing a lot of work and tiring myself out. So
Who
I have
knows?
to like,
Maybe you learn some. I think there are some games, but it's not the same. Like there are some
right.
games where you can. There is like a platform. Well, ready games for you where they're like a white canvas and you can make your own
Yes,
game out
yes.
of them. So who knows? Maybe you'll find. Well, you will find the way. I think.
something.
Uh, but do you still
Somehow.
play it with your like the regular tabletop way? Do you play it right now with similar
I
people on stream?
Yeah, currently I do not. The last time I played it was probably maybe like 6 months or more ago.
Oh wow.
Um, but it's there, like it's not going anywhere in a sense, you know what I mean? Like it's there if I want to pick it back up again, I certainly can do that. It's not like I've chucked it out the window. It's just on the back burner right now. It's I'm not progressing with it because I have to figure out a way to incorporate it better. So it's like it's in process, the designing the systems and stuff. But I have the rules. I still have a whole like you know document with all of the rules and what you do and how you play it, and it's still very much a thing.
Yeah,
But
so you're
it's
in the place where you want to make it something more because
correct.
it's gotten too big that it needs to evolve, and
Yes,
you
that's
need to
right.
find a way. Yeah, sounds really
Yep,
cool.
yep. So that's
So
one big thing.
yeah, and all the emotes also on your channel, you drew those as well, right? I remember that.
Correct. Yep, all
Yeah.
the emotes. Yep. Yeah, and then I have those. Another big thing that people enjoy is the little videos that I made. So I've taken all these little characters that I've carved with wood,
Oh yeah, the
and
characters as well.
yep. So all these little characters, and they star in my little raid reaction videos. So if you raid,
Oh.
or if you sub, or you get biddies or whatever, I usually play one of these videos. I haven't made a new one in a long time, but I record them. It's kind of interesting. I record them in front of a computer screen. I put a picture on this monitor that I have sitting here, and then I use these little like. Let me show you these because this is interesting. So this little like form, right? So I can put the character on this little place, and then I take a video with my camera, and then I add the sound, and I add the sound effects, and create a little show,
This
right?
is
It's a mini
proper
show.
3D video making. It
Yeah,
doesn't get
exactly.
more 3D than this.
Yeah, it
That's
is fun.
cool.
It's so that is a plan that someday I would love to create a YouTube sort of series out of the characters and like stories, and but that's I have no idea when or how I'm ever gonna get that done. So
You have a
we'll
lot of
see.
project on your hands. So this is
Yeah,
cool.
a lot of
So
ideas. I'm a dreamer, not so much of a doer. That makes
no, I think you've
I mean,
done
I
a lot.
do,
You
but yeah, I,
yeah.
I do, but it's one of those things where I can dream up some pretty crazy ideas. It's
But it's
making them
you
happen.
but it's good to dream up a lot of ideas and then you can pick the best
True.
ones, the ones that can work, like so it's like we can't make everything we dream of. It's just
Very
too
true.
much. We don't have the time, so
Yep,
but the
that's right.
good ones stick and then you make those happen. So I think that's how it
Yes.
works. Do we
Yep.
have any more questions in chat? Think about if you guys have any more questions. We are moving towards the end of the podcast. So if you have any more questions, put them in there. And in the meantime, would you like to sing us another song? And I hope that the audio is good this time.
Yes, I hope the sound works appropriately now. Yes, I have another song I can sing for sure. All right, so let me grab this one.
Agent Brigman says, I came in late. When does PalletBox stream? So there is if you want to follow PalletBox, there is in the title, you can find you can follow him from the title of the stream. And his YouTube channel is pinned for everybody at the top of the chat. It's pinned up there, so you can check that out.
But like the short answer is U.S. time, middle of the night.
US time, middle of the night.
Yep,
That sounds
that's the
good.
short answer. Yep,
Of
at
course,
night.
you talked about your rating video, and I have never seen it because I'm
That's
sleeping
true.
when you stream. So
Yeah.
it's so awful. I've never rated you.
Yep. Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. I get it, and that's one of the nice things though is that it does allow me to kind of meet some people that maybe I normally wouldn't been able to meet, and like
Yeah.
yourself, because it's you guys are on when I'm getting off, so that's really cool. Okay. This song's called Front Porch. Well, it's a given. Yeah, I might not see tomorrow, but I wouldn't want to borrow from today. No, I'm just living, trying hard to catch the sunrise. Yeah, see it all with both eyes anyways. So I'll just say it all gets clearer from the front porch of my mind. I'm thinking about the scars and when I didn't walk the line. I'm smiling about how far I've come, even though I took my time. Yeah, I'm loving the view from the front porch of my mind. Now it's a journey, sometimes in the wrong direction, just blowing the intersection in a haze. But don't you worry, there's another road to follow and a new trail through the hollow that you can blaze. So I'll just say it all gets clearer from the front porch of my mind. When I'm thinking about the scars and when I didn't walk the line. Smiling about how far I've come, even though I took my time. Yeah, I'm loving the view from the front porch of my mind. It all gets clearer from the front porch of my mind. When I'm thinking about the scars and when I didn't walk the line. Smiling about how far I've come, even though I took my time. Yeah, I'm loving the view. Oh, I'm loving the view. Yes, I'm loving the view from the front porch of my mind. There you go. That's called Front Porch. I'm not hearing anything. Are you muted?
I am muted.
Oh, there you are.
Well,
Okay.
yeah, so I wouldn't like accidentally, spoil your
It's okay.
song, but then
Well,
I
hey, I
forget.
had terrible technical difficulties on my side, so I can't say anything.
This is the second episode of this podcast. I think we're doing great. We're
Yes,
doing great.
absolutely. Absolutely. Doing much better than I would probably do. Now, was the sound clearer that time? I hope.
Yes, it was.
Okay.
And for everybody, if you like the music, just Pallet is playing it once a month at least on his channel. So
Yes.
yeah.
And like I said, if somebody comes in and says, "Hey, I never got to hear you sing much," or whatever, just say, "I'd really love to hear a song," and you ask nicely. If I am able to, I don't mind singing. Most of the time I will be able to sing for you. So
I think we have a
feel free.
couple of more questions here. We have, Christopher is asking, I think we already talked about it a little bit. He's asking, what is your favorite thing about streaming? We already talked about it a little bit.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a good question though, because I think what we talked about, I feel is a more of like a purpose of streaming,
yes,
like what I feel like
true,
my
true.
my purpose is. But my favorite thing is probably it's got to be it's got to be the interaction with people, but there are some people that I find incredibly hilarious and some of the best times that I think I have on stream is when just the way they use humor, like my community. It's I know that it maybe sound a little odd, but it is. It's like it's some of my favorite times is interacting with people in a way that just making those jokes and coming up with some really great funny lines. It's I mean, I love video games, so it's hard for me to not to enjoy the games, but the people with the games is it's good stuff.
The combination.
Yes.
There was another question. Looking ahead, what are some of your goals and aspirations as a content creator and musician? Is there something specific you hope to achieve or any new project you're excited about?
Well, I do want to be successful as a streamer. I would like to be, but I think success is a tricky question. I think I will be successful if I can effectively, you know, influence people positively, right? So uh, I know that that's true success down in my heart. Like I know that's what success, but I would like to be successful and get bigger. But I think one of the goals is the one of the reasons I wanted to get bigger. I would like to be able to provide comfortably for my family. That's always a goal a lot of times of a dad, right? You want to be able to give your kids and your wife a good comfortable and at this point my wife works and it's not like, you know, she likes her job, so it's not like I'm forcing her to do it. I'm kind of like a stay-at-home dad at this point. But um but it's still I would like to be successful, right, to provide better for them. But one of the things I would really love to do is I would really love to create this whole what I call Paths of Palatonia. That's the name of the game. But I would love to the tabletop game, but I would love to expand upon. I would love to make a video game someday. And I would love to make a movie someday with
Wow,
that story. But once again,
that's
that's a
very
big
cool.
dream. It's huge, but at least somehow to be able to tell the story, even if it's from YouTube, or through YouTube. But I would love to develop that world more because I think it's cool and I think it's got some real potential. So that'd be a big this is a huge
That
goal,
sounds
but
really cool. And
that'd
I
be
didn't
really
know
cool.
this actually. That's yeah, really cool.
Yep.
We
So
have
that's
yeah, the game idea is really cool, says Daniel. I agree. And you, especially because you've developed it while streaming, so you've developed it
yeah,
not by yourself but actually with the input of so many different people. Actually, it has
yep,
evolved with, just has been shaped by so many different inputs. It's really cool.
yep.
We do have Doug said, I'm a songwriter too.
Nice.
Doug works with music and sound, and
Yep.
he says, I think of songs as friends. Is it the same for you?
I've never viewed it that way. That's a really fascinating concept. I no, I don't. I feel I feel like they're more of a um like a statement that I would tell my therapist almost, or like they're a lot of times like confessional for me almost, if that makes sense, like a confession of or a statement or they give a message and yeah they're I don't personify them but that's a very interesting thought. I'll have to chew on that.
And I have to say that it really comes through, like the words in your songs, like the lyrics. They definitely have that message. Like you can, even for, I mean, I'm not a like a song expert, I English is not my
Sure.
main language, so songs are particularly difficult for me to
Sure.
understand what they mean underneath, because many words maybe I'm not familiar with. So in
Yeah.
songs, they are structured in a certain way that it's not like reading a book, but it's a bit more complicated to
Right.
understand. It's a bit more like poetry than it is like a book.
Yep.
But I definitely hear some messages in your songs, and so it definitely comes through, like a message comes through, and then the message is always different for everybody. The message
Sure.
you send out with your words is never the same as what somebody receives, somebody who is hearing the words, because we
Yep.
see the world differently. We are just people. So
Yep.
but yeah, they're definitely really they're deep.
That's good. I'm glad it communicates. That's the goal for sure.
Well, I think when something comes from your heart or your mind, like, when it comes strongly from you, it does come out,
Yeah. Yep.
for
I believe
anybody
that.
who is tuned, who is open to hear it.
Yeah.
So
True.
I see one more question. Let's read it. Um, okay. How do I structure this question though? So basically, I think it's best to rephrase it in. So, do you think your job or role as a streamer will change when you are a bigger streamer, and how would it change? But I think it's more. I mean, as a viewer, there's a big difference in watching smaller, bigger streamers. Okay.
Yes.
I thought this
Yep.
was also more of a question, as in, do you think you as yourself would be any different, and how you stream would be any different?
No,
But
that's an excellent question.
let's talk about
Something that
all
I've
that.
yeah, I've just it's definitely something I've thought a lot about actually. At least tried to kind of plan in my head what would it look like, or how would I approach that. Obviously right now I'm a big portion of my stream is, you know, like I said, connecting with people. Um I think the role could, and I've watched a lot of different streamers and kind of studied how they deal with it. I know one guy, for instance, if my goal, and it is to connect with people and to still carry that and carry on a conversation, or acknowledge people, or make sure that connection is being made. I know one big streamer has a mod sort of, you know pick out messages from the chat
Oh,
that only he sees, or like will sort of like forward them to him, or whatever, has a way to sort of highlight stuff for him. So in that sense, I know a couple of different streamers that do that, like really big streamers, like you can't even hardly see their chat, let alone,
exactly.
but that has allowed them to remain connected, right? Still answering questions, still interacting with the chat, in spite of the fact that it's going crazy. So I would probably have to try to incorporate, and I would like to incorporate something like that. But I think the purpose, or the goal, would stay the same, to still provide that, companionship or camaraderie or connection, right? But it would definitely have to change. And the other thing I've thought about is I still could have times where either I switched to like Discord, or found ways to, like, I don't know, if let's say I have 50 people that were interested in maybe playing a game with me or something. Maybe maybe that's like a reward or something, like
Hmm.
like a giveaway, where, hey, if somebody really wants to, play some Apex with me or whatever, and maybe it's something that's done off stream, right? And that way there's not that pressure. So there could be, I think there'd be some other ways I could incorporate that, but I would still want to maintain that personal touch. I
Connection.
don't
Yeah.
I don't like streams where it feels like it's just me watching a show and there's like no interaction at all. But I know that usually comes from being really super big, and there's almost no way to manage it at all.
Never say
So
never.
yeah, that's
You
true.
don't
That's
know what happens tomorrow. You don't know.
yeah.
But that's good. That's cool. So you think of basically the only, well, you're kind of saying the only real way of keeping yourself and what you do intact is to basically do it off stream also, like try to find a way to
Yeah,
connect with
right.
the people who want to be closely connected for
Yep.
a different kind of relation, let's say, off
Yeah, it could be like a
and
Discord, for instance,
mm.
where you could set yeah, you could set like permissions, for instance, in Discord. There's a lot of complexity that can be kind of worked in there where you could say, hey, we're going to have a Discord stream for this level of Discord. Yeah, maybe it's the people that have been around for a long time that used to hang out with you when you only had 10 people, or
Yes,
whatever,
exactly,
the
yes.
OG Palantiers, right? Or something like that. But, some way to be able to still connect with that smaller group. So yeah, so something along that line.
Well, I think this has been great. Like, I loved getting to know you a little bit more. And yes, thank you for coming on the podcast and telling us more about
Absolutely.
you and showing us who you are. And thanks for enduring through, well, thanks everybody for enduring through the technical difficulties. Um, Yes, let's see. I would like to share definitely again. There is a video on YouTube that Pallet made when he first talked about his PalletBox and basically how he started off as a streamer, and like how this all came to be. So if you want to know more about Pallet's history and himself as a person, here is a link to the video where, like, a YouTube video on his channel where you can find out more about him. And shall we request one final song before we end? Let's
Sure.
hear one last piece of music. Let's
100%.
hear. Hmm?
I said 100%. Sounds good.
Cool. This was fun.
Yes, yeah, it was, and you asked some really good questions.
And chat
Got
too.
me.
Yeah.
Well, they all did. Got me thinking.
Good. That's always good. I hope we got some people in chat also thinking.
Yes. All right. Well, did you want someone to request one, or just want me to try to find one?
Well, you already sung. Oh, well, yes. We haven't had a request actually. Does anybody have a specific song they would like to request? PalletBox is my hero. Is that the title of the song? That's
No.
just a fact. It's just a fact. If there isn't one, you can pick what you would
Yeah, if
like.
there isn't one, we can certainly do the.
I'm
I'll do
looking
it.
through the list.
Yeah, there you go. And I don't even have all of them on there. One of the ones that might be interesting is "Oh My River."
Yeah. So okay, we have "Oh My River" sounds interesting,
Oh,
or "Sing
that's
Your First Song."
okay. So yeah. So I did actually sing my first song. The first one I tried to sing
That was
was
your
my
first
first song.
song.
Yeah, that I wrote. Yep. I mean, like
Shall
other than
we?
the ones when I was like a teenager, but yes.
Two songs for the price of one. So the first song, "Helping Hands," that was your first song.
Yeah, that was my first song.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do we want to do those two songs? Does
I
it sound
could
good?
I mean I could sing it again. I don't care. You guys
Well, we
got it.
didn't really hear it because
Yeah,
we
that's
had
true.
issues. So
That's very true. That's fine with me. That's fine with me. I'll certainly be willing to do that. There's probably a bunch of people who missed it too. So
yes, yes, who weren't here before. It's a very beautiful song.
okay, I will do that. 1 second. I put words in front of me because
Hmm.
my brain sometimes just in the middle of something can be just be like, nope, I'm not working now, and you
Yep.
don't remember your words. So I've tried to learn my lesson the hard way.
Ah, why not? It's,
Yeah.
nobody says you need to, you know.
Yeah, I've definitely chosen the hard way on more than one occasion. Okay, we're gonna find it here in a second. There it is. Okay. And let me just set this here. Okay. Just gonna try to put a marker in this one. Let's use Let's use the Palantir card to mark this one. So okay,
Okay.
Palantir can be useful today. All right. Well, it's cozy houses and cozy couches. Yeah, it's the place we'd all rather be. The church lobby, just sipping our coffee, talking with our friends and family. But we don't know what we don't know. There's a lot we don't see. Like all those people beyond the steeple who need love, you and me. So my friend, can you lend a helping hand? It's not how much you can't, but how much you can. And it's our duty to help our fellow man, not be building castles in the sand. So my friend, can you lend a helping hand? Yes, it's lame excuses. They are so useless. They don't ever fix the needs. And many are hurting. Yeah, that's for certain. Many of them live just down the street. And if I don't, and if you won't, there's no one left that I can see. And those that are hollow may be gone tomorrow. Oh my, you and I, how can we let this be? So my friend, can you lend a helping hand? Yeah, it's not how much you can't, but how much you can. And it's our duty to help our fellow man, not be building castles in the sand. So my friend, can you lend a helping hand? So my friend, can you lend a helping hand?
Very touching. And
Very.
I saw in there, sorry, I heard in there your castles in the sands. We're here not to build castles in the sands,
Yes, that's
but
right.
to be there for each other, basically.
Yes. Yep. You know, it's really funny that what was it? Uh was it Daniel that said, "Oh Mighty River Songs yesterday"? I was literally that was the song I was going to suggest anyway. So
Yes,
that's pretty
let's hear it.
crazy. All right. So a little story about this song. I actually wrote this song next to the what's called the Penobscot. It's a Native American name. It's next to the Penobscot River in the state of Maine. I went to see a friend up there who was starting a journey similar to mine in a sense. He's doing something different, but he started to do a YouTube channel. and he's actually the friend I told you about maybe a somebody you may want to
Oh yeah,
check
yeah. I remember,
yeah,
yeah.
an interview at some point. But anyway, he kind of had just started his journey, and they got up to around Maine, and they kind of got stuck there, and it was sort of like it was kind of a hard thing because they're just starting this new lifestyle. Anyway, so this is the song that sort of came to me while sitting there, and it was like very helpful to him, and it ended up being also very helpful to me. So hopefully you'll kind of pick up on it with the words. But here we go. Well, sitting by this mighty rushing river, hoping that I'm a doing all right. I suppose I could carry all these burdens, but I think I let them float on by. Yeah, my troubles all are swirling about me, getting caught on the borders of my mind. Still hoping help will come and find me. I suppose I could give it some time. Yeah, 'cause almighty river, I need saving. So almighty river, don't run dry. And almighty river, just keep flowing. And I think I'll be all right. Yes, and many years have passed since you've been here. Many will come before you go. I want to thank you for sticking to the journey. I think it's helping me stay afloat. Yeah, 'cause almighty river, I need saving. So almighty river, don't run dry. And almighty river, just keep flowing. And I think I'll be all right. Yeah, 'cause almighty river, I need saving. So almighty river, don't run dry. And almighty river, just keep flowing. And I think I'll be all right. And I think I'll be all right.
Wonderful. Wow. Really,
You?
yes. Thank you for this music. Really
Yes,
liked
you're
it.
very welcome. Thank you for having me on and being I just will say this, don't want to be embarrassing, but you've always been a very, very welcoming and kind person, and I
Oh.
always appreciate that. So thank you for being you're a good streamer. You're obviously a very respectful person, a very kind person, but you also you've always done a great job at streaming. So I just want to put that in there that I appreciate your kind welcome when I've either rated you or any interaction I've had with you has always been positive. So thank you, thank you.
You
That's
are very kind.
well, you're very deserving. So
Well, you can only be kind with somebody who comes and supports you and raids you when you just never even raid them back because because you're not there.
Right, right.
But
Yeah, but
sometimes support,
it it would surprise you how there are some people who still aren't as like as kind or as I don't know what you want to say, just as maybe as welcoming or whatever. Maybe everybody communicates a little differently, but
well,
you've
I'm
always
really
been very kind. So
I'm really glad we got to do this and be
100%.
on at the same time. See?
Yep.
This was cool.
Yep.
Everybody, I thank you for being here. I think we shall end this podcast on a good note. It was great.
Yeah, before we start fighting. Everything's been great so far, so we don't want to get in an argument or anything. So better wrap it up quick. I'm just kidding. That's funny.
Yep. I think goodbye everybody. Shall we just say goodbye to everybody? Chat, thank you for being here.
Thank you so
Christopher,
much.
Daniel, Gumsgung. Who do we have here still? We have so many of you. We had Agent Brigmond and we have a lot of people lurking. Thank you everybody for watching. I hope you had a really nice time here. And yes, have a good day, everybody. Wherever you are in
Thank
the
you all.
world, be good.
Yep.
We shall see you next another day. Bye, everybody. Bye, Pallet.
Cheerio. Yep. Take care.